I was a traveler, and once came across a castle in which I found some very strange records. These notes were made by a scribe in the 1400s. In the time of our ancestors, when the sun was our constant companion, an unusual and surprising event took place on our secluded island. For the first time in our memory, a strange white powder descended from the heavens, covering our land with an unfamiliar soft blanket. The air, once fragrant with the scent of blooming flowers and sea salt, was now piercing with a coldness that stung the skin. Bare feet, accustomed to the warmth of sandy shores, now met the cool, powdery surface, leaving curious footprints. It was as if the world had been transformed overnight, as if the spirits themselves had woven a new tapestry for us. Trees, usually adorned with lush greenery, stood adorned with this strange, glittering dust. Even the wild animals, formerly lively and playful, now moved with wary curiosity, their usual chatter replaced by a solemn silence. The sky was different, too, clouded with clouds that whispered of the mysteries of this enigmatic phenomenon. In the face of this inexplicable miracle, we, the inhabitants of our warm and secluded shelter, find ourselves in a desperate struggle for survival. The freezing cold is chilling us to the bone, we are shivering and fragile, our once cozy homes now battling the piercing wind. The land that once provided abundant food has become barren, and all attempts to cultivate it result only in shriveled, frost-covered remnants. Hunger gnaws at our bellies, echoing inexorably through the village, taking the vitality of our people. The game we once relied on for sustenance has become elusive, as if the spirits themselves have turned their backs on us. Every day is a pain of emptiness, a constant reminder of our plight. In the quiet corners of our homes, mothers whisper lullabies to children with sunken cheeks, their own bellies echoing the song of hunger. Old men, once a source of wisdom, now wear frowning eyebrows, their anxious wrinkles cut deeply by the burden of worrying about our survival. In this harsh reality, the mystery falling from heaven serves as a cruel irony, a tantalizing promise of sustenance that remains out of reach. Every day we pray to the spirits, asking for mercy, for deliverance from this unrelenting ordeal. But despite all the difficulties, we persevere, finding strength in unity, knowing that the spirits test us in mysterious and unfathomable ways. Next entry. In the depths of our collective terror, a vile specter has insidiously braided our once tranquil village. Unrelenting hunger pales in comparison to the ghostly shadows looming over our people. Men, women, innocent children's laughter all have fallen victim to a mysterious ailment, their life force stolen by an unseen force. Their skin, once sun-kissed, has now taken on a sickly hue and their eyes are clouded with the pain of an unknown ailment. The acrid scent of herbs wafts through the air, and our healers, brows furrowed in concentration, tirelessly prepare potions in an attempt to stop the impending darkness. In the heart of our village, elders and revered shamans gather for a somber council, concern in their voices. Ancient scrolls are unfurled, their parchment yellowed by age, revealing forgotten rituals and whispered spells. There is a sense of urgency in their deliberations, a desperate search for a remedy that can restore the failing health of our people. But the ominous turn of events takes an even darker turn. A child, the embodiment of innocence, and a respected man, a symbol of strength, disappear without a trace. Their disappearance echoes in the emptiness of our village, their absence felt as a gaping wound in our midst. Every corner of our island is searched, every stone turned over in a frantic search for clues. The forest, once a sanctuary, now seems formidable and unknown, its depths holding secrets we cannot unravel. Every night we gather under the canopy of stars, whispering their names into the vast expanse of the night sky, praying for their safe return. But the heavens are silent, their stars are indifferent witnesses to our misfortune, and we are forced to admit that something far more sinister than mere illness has befallen us. Next entry. The weather has become even harsher, the white shroud, as we used to call it, cascades inexorably down from the sky, covering our once vibrant island in a suffocating shroud. Its touch is icy, penetrating our bones and freezing our breath in the air. The outside world has become a foreign landscape, where the familiar features of our homeland are hidden beneath layers of this strange cold substance. Despair grips our tribe, forcing us to go to unfathomable lengths to avoid starvation. The cruel vagaries of nature force us to consume small portions of our kin's flesh to sustain our emaciated bodies. The taste is metallic and bitter, a reminder of the desperation that drove us to this unthinkable act. With each reluctant bite, a mixture of revulsion and primal survival instincts grows in me, as if I am on the edge of sanity. As I chew the sinewy fibers and swallow the nasty bits, a strange feeling overwhelms me. It's not just a gnawing hunger that subsides, but something deeper, something far more sinister. I feel a dark energy awakening in my stomach, a hunger that goes beyond the physical need for sustenance. It's as if eating the flesh of our own kind has unleashed a dormant force in us, something ancient and malevolent that now stirs and demands to be fed. Guilt and horror at what we have done intertwine with unquenchable thirst, creating a grotesque dance of despair and hunger that threatens to consume not only our bodies but our souls as well. The whispers of the shamans echo through the village, their quiet voices carrying the weight of ancient knowledge. They speak of conducting a healing ritual, a desperate attempt to heal the wounds inflicted on our people, and a ritual designed to repel the relentless onslaught of the bitter white veil. Their eyes, once filled with wisdom, now flicker with despair as they ask our leader for permission. Our chief, the one who once led us with unwavering strength, is secluded in his hut, his authority weakened by the dire circumstances in which our island finds itself. The shaman's pleas for permission hang unanswered in the air, as if the very walls of the hut protect him from the desperate cries of our tribe. In the face of impending doom, the fate of our people rests in the hands of a leader whose silence breeds uncertainty, and we wonder if his resolve has been swallowed up by the darkness that has descended upon us. Next entry. After what seemed like an eternity, our chief finally emerged from his hut, pale and gaunt, with eyes clouded with uncertainty but determination. I swear he seemed taller in stature. With a hesitant nod, he authorized us to begin the ritual, his voice barely above a whisper. Anticipation hung in the air as the shamans, clad in sacred regalia, began to recite ancient incantations that seemed to carry the weight of generations. The effect of the healing was immediate and startling. A surge of vitality flowed through the veins of the sick, their gaunt faces regained color, and their breathing evened out. It seemed as if the spirits themselves heard our cries and gave us their benevolent touch, filling our hearts with hope. But amid the newfound hope, a heavy sense of foreboding settled over the village. The air crackled with anxious energy, as if the very elements around us sensed the impending danger. As the shamans intensified their chants, trying to chase away the white veil, an unexpected shift occurred. The atmosphere thickened, filled with anger, reflecting the cold and ruthless nature of the veil itself. Then, in a moment of deep terror, the ritual had the opposite effect. The melodic incantations turned to dissonance, and their echoes began to carry an aura of twisted power. Instead of dispelling the veil, the ritual seemed to intensify it, doubling its power with a chilling intensity. The very air around us seemed to freeze, and the once bountiful snowflakes turned into biting shards of ice. The hope that had so briefly revived in us was extinguished in an instant, replaced by an all-consuming sense of hopelessness. The ritual meant to save us had inadvertently unleashed a great, dark power, and we were enveloped not only in a white veil, but in an impenetrable blanket of fear and uncertainty. Next entry. A village is thrown into chaos when two more souls disappear without a trace, their mysterious disappearance throwing the villagers into a state of deep fear and suspicion. Whispers of terror spread through the village, the villagers questioning each other, wondering if an evil force had taken the form of one of them, lurking in their midst. The discovery of the monster has spread throughout the village, increasing the paranoia. The villagers gather in silent clusters, their eyes widened with fear and their voices lowered to an anxious whisper. Accusations fly like arrows in the darkness, each resident casting suspicious glances at their neighbors, wondering which of them might be responsible for such indescribable terror. The once close-knit community stands on the brink of complete disintegration, torn apart by fear, distrust, and impending unfathomable evil. Next entry. A deep sense of terror has gripped the village, as one of our shamans has experienced a terrifying vision so horrific that it seemed to destroy his mind. Now he wanders the village with eyes dilated with terror, mumbling incoherently about the impending trouble. His words, scattered and meaningless, paint a chilling portrait of our fate, instilling in us a wistful sense that our days are numbered. The chief, once a beacon of wisdom and strength, has become a ghostly reminder of the impending darkness. The villagers gather in small groups, with concerned expressions on their faces, exchanging anxious glances as they ponder the meaning of the shaman's cryptic warnings. Adding to our growing unease was a grim and gruesome discovery on the outskirts of the village. A crested head was found perched on a pike with its eyes wide open in horror. How it got there remains a mystery that hangs in the air like an unsolvable riddle. The sight of the lifeless creature, its presence as a vivid reminder of the evil forces at work in the world, gave us goosebumps. But even more, the same mysterious symbol, engraved on the pike with uncanny precision, chilled us to the bone. In the fading light, the sign seemed to glow dimly, emitting an otherworldly aura that struck fear into the hearts of those who dared to approach it. In addition, the horns had been ruthlessly removed, making the eerie sight even more terrifying. We all gathered around the chilling sight, horror and confusion on our faces. Whispers of dark omens and ancient curses spread like wildfire, and a new wave of terror swept the village. The inexplicable presence of the crested head combined with the strange symbol made us feel vulnerable and unprotected, as if an unseen enemy was taunting us, reminding us of our helplessness in the face of impending evil. Next entry. The unthinkable became our reality. We resorted to a desperate act of self-sacrifice, sacrificing one of our old men, who had lived a long life, to the raging storm to appease the evil stalking our village. We hoped that this grim sacrifice would satisfy the insatiable hunger of the supernatural force tormenting us. But the storm rages unabated, as if mocking our feeble attempts at appeasement. In the heart of the tabernacle, the sacred space where our community once found comfort and connection with the spirits, a great fire blazes. The flames dance wildly, casting flickering shadows on the faces of the townspeople huddled around it. In the warm glow of the fire, we seek solace in each other's presence, finding comfort in the shared vulnerability of our situation. The absence of our leader is noticeable among the gathering, his silence hanging over the village like a heavy fog. With every moment of his absence, more and more anxiety appears on our faces. The unspoken fear that something terrible has happened to him makes us contemplate the unthinkable. We may have to break into his hut, risking the dark secret that may lurk there, to ensure his safety. In the face of such dire circumstances, we find ourselves on the brink of despair, testing our collective will against the malevolent forces that surround us. The bond between us, once a source of strength, now serves as a fragile lifeline, reminding us of the resilience of our common humanity. If we are to survive this nightmarish ordeal, we will need not only courage, but also an unwavering determination to confront the darkness, even if it means confronting the very heart of our fears, the ominous silence of our reclusive leader. Next entry. A chilling horror gripped the village when the missing residents, once lost in obscurity, inexplicably returned to us. Their return, however, brought no relief, but rather a new wave of terror that overwhelmed our already fragile sanity. The sight that greeted us was beyond nightmarish. On the beds lay the mutilated bodies of the returned villagers, their lifeless forms laid out in a grotesque pattern of death. Each body bore the marks of unspeakable violence, limbs twisted at unnatural angles, faces frozen with an expression of unimaginable pain and fear. The brutality of their deaths had been etched in minute detail, leaving us with a vivid reminder of the cruelty of a malevolent force. Once familiar faces, now distorted by agony, haunted us every moment. The heavy smell of death hung heavy in the air of their homes, a sickening reminder of the horrors that were being perpetrated within those walls. Their families, who until recently had desperately hoped for their return, were now forced to come to terms with the nightmarish reality of their loved one's fate. Cries of grief and disbelief echoed through the village, mingling with the wails of grief. Next entry. I have been assigned to investigate the chieftain's hut. I bear the weight of this responsibility for the entire village. Amidst our collective fear and despair, the decision has been made. Anticipation of what I might find inside the hut gnaws at my mind, but determination lives in my heart. With each step toward the chieftain's dwelling, the ominous aura around him intensifies. I approach the door with fear and determination, knowing that whatever secrets lurk behind it, I must reveal them for the good of our community. A sense of hopelessness pervades all of our thoughts. It feels as if all hope has been drained from our souls, leaving behind a void that cannot be filled. The inexorable onslaught of the white veil has intensified, its cold tendrils penetrating deeper into our homes and hearts. We are faced with a grim choice. Hunger gnaws at our bellies, frost stiffens our limbs, and the fear of being taken away into the night by the evil force that has taken others hangs over us like a ghost. The future appears to be a bleak, uncharted territory, shrouded in darkness and uncertainty. Each day begins with the realization that it could be our last, and with each night we wonder if the morning sun will ever again illuminate our exhausted faces. In this state of deep sadness, the village collectively mourns not only those who have passed away, but also hope itself, which seems to be drifting farther and farther away with each passing moment. The prevailing sense of hopelessness is further compounded by the fact that the leader, once revered and respected, has gone into recluse. His withdrawal from society has cast a deep shadow over our village. He was once someone to look up to, a beacon of guidance and strength. But now he hides in his hut, and his absence is felt in the droning silence surrounding his dwelling. His seclusion serves as a stark reminder of the dire straits in which we find ourselves. The chief, once a symbol of hope and unity, now symbolizes our collective fear and insecurity. The villagers, already on the brink of despair, are left without the leader they so desperately need in these difficult times. The absence of his voice, once a source of reassurance, now hangs in the air, leaving us adrift in a sea of hopelessness and confusion. With each passing day, the sense of abandonment grows stronger. The once vibrant village square where the chief shared his wisdom now stands silent and empty. His reclusiveness mirrors our own isolation, reinforcing the sense that we are alone in this struggle. The village, once united by a shared sense of community, now finds itself adrift, and the absence of our leader has left a void that seems impossible to fill. Next entry. The door groaned on its rusty hinges and swung open, releasing a wave of fizzy, rancid air that clawed at my throat. Entering the chief's hut was like entering the bowels of an ancient crypt. The darkness inside was so thick and palpable that it seemed to press against my skin. The door slammed shut behind me with a thud, cutting me off from the outside world and plunging me into an oppressive silence that rang with disconcerting finality. A lone faint candle flickered in the corner, casting elongated shadows that danced menacingly across the walls. A choking odor of rot lingered in the air, mingling with the dampness that seemed to ooze from the walls of the shack. I hesitated for a moment, feeling an air of dread hang in the air, before I summoned up the courage to move on. The entrance room, dimly lit by the flickering candlelight, was a gallery of madness. Strange symbols and sigils covered every inch of the walls, their intricate patterns seeming to wriggle and pulse as if alive. I hesitantly reached out to touch one of them, but my fingers recoiled as if scorched by an invisible fire. The air hummed with unnatural energy, making the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. I followed the poison trail, my footsteps muffled by the thick layer of dust that covered the floor. The bedroom, once a place of peace, had become a nightmare. The walls were splattered with dried blood, rusty stains forming grotesque patterns that seemed to shift and change in the dim light. Severed limbs and torn organs were scattered haphazardly around the room, a gruesome mosaic of death. A distant, high-pitched scream echoed through the cabin, and goosebumps ran down my spine. Turning slowly, I saw a figure emerge from the shadows, its skeleton illuminated by the dim candlelight. The deer skull, adorned with a tangled crown of horns, seemed to exude an aura of ancient yet new evil. The eyeless eye sockets sank into me, and in that instant I felt the weight of centuries of darkness and despair. The skeletal creature, topped by a tangled mass of horns, tried to squeeze through the doorway, its movements clumsy and disjointed. It let out a guttural growl of frustration as its horns scraped against the wooden frame, trapping it for a moment. Seizing the opportunity, I darted away, fear igniting every nerve in my body. The pursuit was relentless, the gaunt silhouette of the animal looming behind me like a specter of death. Adrenaline surged through my veins, forcing my legs to carry me faster. The cacophony of my pounding heart drowned out the sounds of the beast behind me, and I ran, panting with ragged breaths. When I sprinted out the door, the village was a misty ghost in the moonlight. I barely had time to utter a warning before the beast lunged after me. Its huge horns, like a nightmarish crown, caught on the door frame, halting its pursuit for a moment. The villagers, awakened by my frantic flight, saw the grotesque figure of the beast in the doorway, its eyes blazing with raging hunger. A frenzied battle ensued, consisting of frantic movements and desperate screams. Claws clashed with makeshift weapons, and the acrid odor of fear and violence lingered in the air. The villagers, driven by a primal instinct to defend their home, fought valiantly against the monstrous invader. Each blow reverberated with primal fury, a collective resistance to the impending darkness that threatened to engulf their sanctuary. In this chaos, the creature managed to break free and slipped like a shadow into a neighboring hut. The screams of the villagers were replaced with horror as the creature disappeared into the shadows, its ghostly silhouette vanishing into the darkness of the hut. A chilling, wailing call echoed through the village, echoing in the souls of every resident, reminding them of the evil force lurking beyond the threshold of their homes. In the aftermath of the chaos, a horrifying truth was revealed. Our revered chief, once respected and admonished, turned out to be the organizer of the village's nightmares. He had succumbed to a monstrous madness. His insatiable lust for human flesh had turned him into a vicious creature. Within the walls of his hut, he devoured the people he had sworn to protect, and by his actions he betrayed the trust of the entire community. Next entry. The white veil finally released its icy grip, leaving our village shrouded in an unfamiliar shroud, and a deceptive calm settled over the island. The shroud, a strange phenomenon we had never encountered before, covered everything around us, turning the landscape into an eerie, untouched paradise. Yet beneath this pristine shroud lurked an unsettling atmosphere, as if the very ground on which we stood held its breath in anticipation of the next horror. It seemed as if we had crossed the threshold of a new age, darkened by the evil that had befallen our chief. The island, once a sanctuary, now harbored an unshakable sense of foreboding. Something sinister had taken root, something whispered of ancient evil and unspeakable nightmares. The air itself seemed to hum with otherworldly energy, as if the island itself had become a receptacle for the dark forces that now lurked in the shadows.